Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing another what I eat in a day as a vegan, and so here's what I had to eat one day this week. For breakfast I made creamy overnight oats with a Nutty-Crumb Breakfast Topping. I made my creamy overnight oats the night before. I've shared this so many times. I sometimes switch up ingredients, but I will write my recipe down below. I then left those to set in the fridge overnight, and in the morning I took them out. I then made the breakfast topping by adding 1/4 cup of pecans, 1/4 cup of almonds, 1/4 cup of pumpkin seeds and 1/4 cup of cacao nibs into my Magimix food processor, and I pulsed those until they formed a crumb-like mixture. I then sprinkled that on top of my creamy overnight oats, and I also squeezed over half of a passion fruit, and I also added on a handful of fresh blueberries. I love adding yoghurt into my overnight oats as it just makes them so creamy. I sometimes add in a mashed banana as well, but it just makes us a great base for any breakfast bowl that you can add whatever you like to. The breakfast topping adds like a crunchy texture to it, and you could use this on top of any breakfast bowl. You can make it up in bigger batches as well, just making sure that the ingredients you use are in equal parts, and then store any leftovers in an airtight container in a cool, dry place. Later on in the morning I made an iced tea, and I only opt for loose leaf tea now since discovering how much plastic actually goes into tea bags, and also loose leaf tea is easier to compost. This one is by the Bluebird Tea Company, which is now called Bird and Blend Tea, and it's their strawberry lemonade tea. I took about a teaspoon of that in the infuser, and then I filled my small keep cup with hot water, left it to brew for a good 5 minutes or so, and then poured it into my tall keep cup. I then filled the rest of the cup with chilled filtered water, added in some sliced strawberry and some ice cubes, and then placed it in the fridge to cool for around 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, I then added in some more ice and my glass straw. This is actually really nice hot as well, but it's so refreshing as an iced tea. It literally tastes like a flat strawberry flavoured lemonade, but it's just simply made with real strawberry pieces and zesty lemon peel. Alongside that, I also had a couple of watermelon slices as well, which are again so cooling in the summer weather and just one of my favourite fruits to snack on at this time of year. I then gave the seed-free watermelon rinds to the rabbits as like a one-off treat. This is the first time they've ever had watermelon and they loved it. For lunch I made a creamy red pepper and red lentil stew. I first took Coconut Merchant's coconut oil with turmeric. If you know me, you'll know I love anything with turmeric. It is such a great healing spice. And I used a teaspoon of that. I added it into a large pan and left it to melt. And meanwhile, I roughly chopped 1 white onion and minced 3 cloves of garlic. Then I added both the onion and the garlic into the pan, and I fried them off for a couple of minutes. I next added in a pinch of cayenne pepper, half a teaspoon of chili flakes, a teaspoon of paprika and a teaspoon of dried parsley, and then turned those through the onions to coat them. I'd rinsed and drained a cup of red lentils, but I added in around 3/4 to the pan, and then also a drained jar of roasted red peppers, which I'd roughly chopped. I then stirred those through the spices before then pouring in 2 cups of passata. Mine was garlic and herb, and then I rinsed the jar with hot water and added in a cup of that, as well as a can of coconut milk. I seasoned it well with salt and black pepper, then gave it a good stir through, brought it up to a gentle boil, and then left it to simmer uncovered for around 30 minutes. Meanwhile, I added the remaining 1/4 cup of lentils to a pan with a tablespoon of olive oil and fried them off for a few minutes. Then I added in a pinch of onion granules, a pinch of paprika, a pinch of salt, and a pinch of garlic pepper. I turned that through and then fried them off until they were crispy. Then I placed them on a paper towel on a plate to soak up any excess oil and cool until even crispier. I then cut 2 slices of cornbread and then mixed together 2 tablespoons of olive oil, a minced clove of garlic, and a small bunch of fresh chopped parsley in a glass, and then I spread that out between the 2 slices of bread. I then placed those in the same pan, plain side down, to soak up any remaining oil. I fried those off for a few minutes before then turning them over to toast on the other side. At this point, this stew was pretty much done. I then just squeezed in the juice of half a lemon and gave it a final stir. I served some up in a bowl and then stirred through some coconut yogurt, added on the crispy fried lentils, some fresh chopped parsley, and then the garlic cornbread on the side. Just FYI, it hasn't been as hot here in Ireland as it's been in the UK, but I'm still that crazy person who loves to cook in the heat, especially since I've been eating more refreshing salady type dishes recently. I just really fancied something like this. I'd actually planned to do this as more of a soup, but it just looks so good I then didn't want to blend it up. It's like a thick stew, almost like a lentil bolognese without the pasta, and it's probably one of my favourite recipes that I've come up with recently. The crispy lentils are similar to crispy chickpeas in a way. They're a really great snack, but they're also good on top of soups and things. And I love making bread like this. We had some cornbread left over and I wanted to do something different with it. I thought garlicky cornbread sounded like a really good idea, and it was perfect with all of the flavours from the stew and just dipped into it. In the afternoon, I had one of these cocoa dairy-free peach and passion fruit yogurts. I just added in the other half of the passion fruit leftover from breakfast, as well as some coconut chips. I'm a bit obsessed with these yogurts, as you know. I love the plain one as well. They're just so good and come in a few different flavours. They're a really quick and easy snack, and as I've done before, I just love putting toppings on them to add a little something. For dinner we had a roast vegetable orzo. I first minced 4 cloves of garlic and then roughly chopped up 1 red onion, 1 yellow pepper, 1 long sweet red pepper, a butternut squash and an aubergine. I then turned my oven on to 180 degrees Celsius. Then I added all of the veg into a large baking dish. To that I added 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 3 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar, a teaspoon of fennel seeds, and seasoned well with salt and black pepper. I then turned that through really well to coat all of the veg, and then I placed it in the oven to roast for around 40 minutes. Before it was almost done, I filled a large pan with boiling water and some salt. I then added in 2 cups of orzo and allowed that to cook for around 8 minutes. Once done, I drained it off and set it aside. And then in the same pan, I added in a small handful of pine nuts and just let them toast in the bottom, then removed them and left them to cool. I then removed the roast veg from the oven and added it into the large pan. I then added in the cooked orzo and turned it all through. I next squeezed in the juice of half a lemon, added in around 1/4 cup of chopped sun-dried tomatoes and a handful of chopped fresh basil, seasoned it again with salt and black pepper and mixed it all through really well. I then served it up between our 2 plates, and then over the top I sprinkled the toasted pine nuts and added on some more fresh basil. Aside from all the veg chopping, this is such an easy dinner to prepare. You just can't go wrong with roast veg and orzo, or any type of grain like quinoa or giant couscous. The flavours from the garlic, the balsamic, the lemon, basil, and then the texture of all that caramelised roasted veg and the toasted pine nuts. It's just all so delicious. And you can switch up the veg you use. Courgette would be really great in this, as well as mushrooms, asparagus, cherry tomatoes, spinach. You can make it new and different every time. For dessert, I had some strawberries and cream. I just hulled and sliced some strawberries and then I placed those in a bowl. I then took some of the Oatly single cream, which is great for both sweet and savoury dishes, and I poured some of that over the top. I then also picked some mint. This is actually a strawberry mint plant, so the mint tastes like strawberry. It's so good, and I thought it would be really great with this, and I just sprinkled some of that over the top. Strawberries and cream is such a British summertime dessert, and I actually haven't had it since going vegan over 3 years ago, but I always have the Oatly cream stocked in my cupboard, and with some fresh strawberries in the fridge, I was like, why have I not done this any sooner? It just goes to show that you can still eat your favourite foods as a vegan, just plant-based versions of them. And that's it for another day on my plate. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, all of the recipes are written up in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!